is a different type of technology, direct sequence, as opposed to frequency hopping. And essentially what it does is it ups the throughput to about 11 megabits per second. It's sort of evolving as the standard today. I don't think anybody would go back to 2 megabits if they could do 11, but certainly the cost is needs to be evaluated. Even with 11, though, in our environment, we need the basic 2.2 megabits per second minimum for a reasonable performance. In our Family Health Center, we'll have about 5 access points. Okay, so now we've got the wireless all set up. You know, what are we using for a device to interact with it? And in our institution, we've actually been through all through 3 phases. We've had wall-mounted units, fixed wall-mounted units in our nursing units. Then we've had wall-mounted units that can be repositioned in the organization, and now we've gone to cart-mounted laptops. And the cart-mounted laptops essentially reside outside the rooms, and nurses have the ability to move them to wherever they want to track from. And in our situation, when we do the barcoding, there's a barcode unit which is attached to the Toshiba cart-mounted unit. So they tend to barcode the med and then move into the room, or they'll have the unit in the room. Either way, they're interacting with it right around where the patient is. The ideal of having them do it right at the bedside isn't exactly what happens. It happens wherever the nurse really feels it's most efficient. So our units, we have about 80 of these guys circulating throughout the hospital. We found they don't walk, actually. The cart-mounted units are pretty hard to move out of the organization. They tend to stay pretty much where you think they're going to stay, at least in our experience. We're using 233 megahertz machines. We don't really need to go through that. A key, though, is, yes, Rich?
Question. Your units, how big are your nursing stations?
About 30 beds per
And how many carts do you have per nursing station?
About 15, I'd say, but it's a little less than 1 for every 2 rooms, which is one of the advantages of the cart-mounted units as opposed to the wall-mounted units. You can get away with less devices.
Except, relative to bed size.
Relative to bed size.
Right, so you park them between the rooms.
Right.
You don't bring them in. Can you speak to physician adoptions?
I will, but if you can hold off on that for a second, I will get back to that. The units that we have our a 2 megabit wireless NIC card. We have the serial barcode gun attached to it. We have key lock on there that actually locks the laptop to the cart, and obviously a mouse. And we use an active matrix display, so it's a very small and high quality display. Now, with that said, we have these units, we have this application in place. Let me run through some of the benefits that we've experienced, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the issues that we've experienced. The medication administration process is really a centerpiece now of our organization. We're highlighting it all over the place. The board knows what we're doing with it because of the IOM report. Our QA committees with board involvement have been alerted and highlighted about this. It's being publicized. So from that perspective, it's getting a lot of press right now. The medication administration process essentially checks the 5 rights. It makes sure that it's the right patient, the right drug, the right dose, the right time, the right route every time. And it's a very powerful product if you can get it implemented. It's probably another session to talk about all of the issues associated with working together between pharmacy, nursing, and the medical staff to make it happen. But once it's in place, it's a very powerful program. It also provides caregivers with alerts and reminders. So if a nurse is moving and charting from room to room, we can alert her that her meds are due or overdue. It captures errors. It can automatically track when the meds were given. If they're late, if they're not, it can track if the nurse has overridden an error message. We can actually record the kinds of reasons why they do that. And it does a great job of, essentially it eliminates all of your third-party medication administration chart reviews, because your chart, what you charge is exactly what you've charted, because the charge process is done at administration. So as soon as you've administered the drug gets charged for. You don't pre-charge for it, then credit, go through all that sort of stuff. Some of the other things that we've found is from a quality point of view, the way that I&Os work in your organization, if you don't have an automated process, people are adding that up every single day, day in and day out, and errors can be made with the math. This takes that piece out. It gives you the ability to do graphical review. Coming back to Rich's question about physicians, I will do that in a second. But what I'm really talking about now is primarily the way the nurses interact with it, and that's at the bedside. One of the things that you'll find, that I find incredibly fascinating, is how many different ways people chart, from floor to floor, from service to service, from hospital to ambulatory setting. And what this does, it really helps you, if you're diligent about it, get your hands around some more standard ways of describing to people what's happening, which then gives you the information you can start doing quality analysis and review. We also have a query product that we can go in and we can look at things. For instance, one of the big things with Joint Commission right now is restraints. We could go in and we could chart, and we could find out all the patients that are on restraints, and we could find out the kinds of things that are charted. And we can go back and interact with the nurses and say, you haven't really appropriately charted. We can do it very proactively. And you can do those kinds of things when you have a system like this in place. Now this is a little more theoretical and something that needs more time and study to really determine if it's true or not. But in theory, if you freed up some of the time, and the way we cost justified this whole system was not on savings in IT, thank goodness. It was based upon end of shift overtime charting for nurses. So taking out all that extra time when they've got all the stuff in their pockets that they've accumulated throughout the day, and then they go back at the end of the shift and they've got to put it all in, and you're paying overtime most of the time when they do that. So that was a basis of our cost justification. But it's interesting. In theory, it frees up the nurses to have more time in the room if they use it the way we've designed it. And what we're experiencing now is, as people are becoming more comfortable with technology, they're using the internet in their homes, they're using technology in multiple ways, they actually feel somewhat reassured by the fact that you're using a system to guarantee that their meds are checked. And we're going to get those kind of comments back. Yes, Bob?
Just real quick, the caregiver time in the room, that is one that's always, rising to the top. Have you ever measured that at all?
We haven't, actually. We've done a lot of work with measuring our med-error times. But that's a soft benefit we really haven't measured. We do it only, we don't do it scientifically, only by verbal interview with our nurses about, do you feel you have more time? Do you feel that this is helping you or not helping you? And we do get various responses, but on the average, the feedback we get is more positive than negative in that respect. Staff satisfaction does play a piece in this. We have more access to the chart. Certainly, there's no queues at the nursing station. With the wireless technology, people can get. There's enough devices in our floors between the cart-mounted units and the fixed devices at the nursing station. There's almost 20 devices on every unit. So that really makes a difference with people having access. And I can't stress enough, don't spend multi-millions of dollars on application and technology and shortchange the amount of access points people have. That's a real key thing.
If I was to understand what you said, you have a 30-bed unit, you got 20 devices, does that mean that there's 20 people taking care of 30 people?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, we have 5 or 6 fixed PCs at the nursing station, at the typical nursing station, and between 10 and 15 cart-mounted units. Okay, now they're not all in use at all the time, but there are times of the day when you have nursing staff and you have physicians, and we also have a we're a joint partnership with Dartmouth College